Hello, and welcome to part 2 of a series of talks about the essence of storytelling given by DreamWorks story artist Jeff Biancalana. In part 2, Jeff explains what he calls the story spine. Please take a look at the video description as we have provided parts of Jeff's notes and links to the films that he is discussing.
Generally, when we're developing a story, we have a main character, and that character has an arc. And in The Green Ninja, the main character would probably be the Green Ninja, and he doesn't have an arc. You know, he's basically the Green Ninja from the beginning to the end, yes.
What's an arc?
An arc is the pattern of change that a character will go through in a story. I like to reference Rain Man. Rain Man has a fantastic arc. Tom Cruise's character is a total asshole when you meet him. He's a jerk, he's self-centered, he doesn't care about anybody else. And by the end of the movie, he's someone who is putting his brother's interests ahead of his own, and he doesn't care about the money anymore, he just cares about family. So that is his arc, yes.
Wouldn't the arc in the Green Ninja be the person that the ninja's trying to change?
Yes, exactly. So you have a new character every week, and basically they're doing something wrong, and the Green Ninja needs to educate them, and then they become a better person by the end of the film. So that's exactly right. And that does exist in film as well. It's just not as common. The first movie I worked on was Horton Hears the Who. I don't know if any of you saw Horton Hears the Who, but you're probably all familiar with the book, correct? Okay, so Horton is an interesting character because he's steadfast. He doesn't change. His arc is flat. What he does is he changes everybody around him. Okay, and that's a really powerful way of using story. It's just not the typical way. And you know, the theme of Horton is so great. A person's a person, no matter how small, and that can apply to so many different things. But you know, you've got this giant character who's bigger than anybody else in the jungle, and his concern is with the smallest. And you know, so small that most people don't even believe that they exist. And even when the entire jungle has turned against him, and his friends, everyone he knows, basically has beat him and tied him up and put him in a cage, he still will not give up on his friends. He never gives up. We could go over this story spine, and this is a great way to break down a story. And it's a great kind of checklist for you when you're writing your own story. You can make sure you have all these elements. If you look on I guess it's the back of the page, kind of has a place where you can actually write your own story. But basically, we've got once upon a time, every day, but one day, because of that, until finally, and ever since then. So these are basically the points of the story. Once upon a time, this is an opportunity to teach your audience who your character and what the rules of the universe he or she lives in. Do we like him? Is he a good person or a bad person? How will he get the audience to root for them? This is a really important part that a lot of people gloss over, and it's often the most difficult part for us when we're making a movie to accomplish. The last movie that I worked on was called Freebirds. Does anybody see Freebirds? It was about, the tagline was, two turkeys steal a top secret government time machine and they go back in time to the first Thanksgiving to get turkeys off the menu and save all turkeys from being eaten. So it was a buddy comedy adventure film, and the main character's name is Reggie. I may reference him once in a while because it's fresh in my mind, the way that we developed this story. But Reggie was a real jerk. And we wanted our audience to like him so that they would root for him through the story. Now, I just talked about Tom Cruise in Rain Man. So he was a jerk, and that movie, I think it won an Academy Award, right? I think it did. It did very well. And the thing was, even though Tom Cruise's role, he was pretty much an asshole in that movie, there were still likable things about him. He was really smart. He was really driven. He was passionate. He believed in himself, maybe overly so. But there was an energy to him that made the audience root for him, even though he wasn't necessarily a nice person. Now, Reggie, this turkey, our main hero, was just a jerk. There was nothing likable about him. And we struggled a lot. We went back and forth, and I'd say that we didn't really solve the problem until halfway through. There was all kinds of layers of things that we had to peel off to really get to who his character was. And I hope we achieved it. You know, what we did was we kind of showed that how, as a child growing up, he was kind of ostracized because he was different. And so his attitude towards the people around him was based off the fact that he'd kind of been kicked around a lot. He never really fit in. And in the end, he still, before the inciting incident, he still tried to do the right thing. He wasn't a bad person. He just didn't really fit in, and so it didn't make him the most lovable person. And I think it worked really well. It made him a character that you could feel for. You felt bad for him. He got kicked around a lot, and you wanted him to find a place where he would actually fit in. Another character I'd like to just mention on the story point is Rick in Casablanca. Have you guys seen Casablanca? If you haven't seen it, you should. It's amazing, and that's got one of the best character setups I've ever seen. The camera goes through this fancy like Moroccan bar, and it ends on a man's hands with a cigarette, and he signs his name Rick, and then it comes up to his face, and it just looks so cool. You're like, this guy's cool. He's a cool guy.
Humphrey Bogart, right?
Humphrey Bogart.
Okay.
And within a few minutes, he's done a couple of very interesting things that define his character. He helps out a criminal, so you're like, okay, this guy's a little shady. He's hiding these secret documents in his piano for this criminal friend of his. But then he also protects a young girl from being taken advantage of, and basically gives her the money she needs to get out of town. So he does two very opposite things, making him a very dynamic character, very interesting. He's got a great arc, by the way, and I'll talk about that later. But I highly recommend you guys check that out for, as far as setting up that, this first thing right here, Once Upon a Time, learning the rules of your universe and defining your main character. Casablanca is really awesome for that. So that opening, you want to define your main character. Now in the Green Ninja's sense, again, it's a much shorter story. So it's not, I don't think personally that it's as necessary to have someone be super invested in that character. If we're going to talk about the secondary character who's going to go through an arc in the episode, if you're going to hold someone's attention for 4 minutes, you don't have to build up some real passion for the audience to be behind this guy, because you basically, they're gonna sit there for 4 minutes and they'll see the whole thing. It's not like an hour and a half where by 20 minutes they don't care about your main character, they're gonna leave the theater. So I don't think that's as important, but I don't think it would hurt to get it in there. If you guys could find ways to make this new character that comes in every episode an empathetic character or interesting, I think that will only help. So I don't think you should ignore it, but I think we could probably get away with a lot more. The rules of the universe, for every movie I work on, we have to figure out what those are going to be. And this is a real animation thing that, if you think about a story like Monsters, Inc., most of you guys have probably seen that. The rules of that universe are, the monsters need kids' screams to power their world, and kids are dangerous and deadly. They set that up right away in the first few minutes of the movie so that you understand why the monsters act the way they do for the rest of the film. It happens right away. It's really clear, and they never break that until they show that the monsters are wrong about kids. But in the Green Ninja, I think that, again, we're dealing with our world. We want to show people what our world is. So I don't think you're going to have to hit it so hard. But I think that for especially the animated episodes, the Green Ninja could do all kinds of stuff. He can turn a leaf blower into a rake. He can appear magically in different places. You can have him do all these things. So again, you have an opportunity to, is the Green Ninja just going to be a guy in a suit, or is he going to have magical powers? What are the extended powers? You could still look into that and establish that right off the bat. Okay, the next step, every day. This is basically an extension of the first one. This is seeing Rick running his business, the things we just talked about. What are the things that are defining that character? It's the next one, but one day. This is really important. This is what we call the inciting incident. This is a pivotal moment that alters the character in some way. It forces them to do something they don't want to do. It exposes something that is lacking in their life or inspires them to do something different. Whatever it is, it should be an emotional moment. In Freebirds, our main character, Reggie, is kidnapped one night by another turkey who claims that he is a member of the Turkey Freedom Front, and that they have a secret mission to save all turkeys. Now, this is an interesting one. This is the unwilling hero. Reggie gets taken and dragged along on this. Most stories, the character makes a conscious decision to move out into the world and to do something they haven't done before. But you can also have an unwilling hero, someone who gets dragged along. Yeah. Another inciting incident, going back to Casablanca, is when Ilsa shows up. So Rick's life is good. He's got a bar. He's basically living in a dangerous world, but he's set up this little bubble for himself where he's totally in control. He's got people working for him. He's got money flowing through the door. Everyone looks up to him. He's in charge. And then this woman shows up and everything goes, and then the next scene he's drunk and crying and he's miserable. We've all been there. When I say hero, I'm generally talking about the main character. You know, whether it's a good person or a bad person, we just generally refer to that person as hero. So the next one, because of that. Because of this, the hero's quest begins. Our main character has now stepped out of their comfort zone and has put themselves into a position of risk. In Casablanca, Rick pursues Ilsa. So he makes a decision. Okay, the inciting incident happens, and then he decides he's going to pursue her. He actively goes after her. This puts him at risk. His association with her and her husband puts him under the scrutiny of the Nazis. He's in a precarious position. It opens up. I mean, not only the emotional risk, right? He's putting his heart at risk, but he's also putting everything he's built at risk. Okay, so after that, this is an interesting one. Because of that, because of that, because of that. So this is a series of events that happens to the character once he leaves. What I wrote here is, this is probably not needed for shorts, but could be used. This may represent the start of Act 2 for a feature, but it can't be repeated as much as necessary. The important thing to remember is the emotional value must change. It will switch between positive and negative, growing in intensity until it peaks near the end of Act 3. What I mean by the value must change is, and I wrote down here that The Matrix is a good example of this. Once the character starts their journey, once our hero goes out on their journey, things are going to happen to them. Okay? What you want to do is you want to have good and bad back and forth. The Matrix is great for this because Neo starts his journey. He takes the blue pill. He goes down. Good things will happen. He'll get a certain piece of information. Bad things will happen. The bad guy shows up and chases them away. Good thing will happen. He'll win a fight. Bad thing will happen. Some of his friends get killed. And each time the ante gets upped. Okay, the intensity of the positive and negative will change, but grow in intensity as we get towards the climax. This is how we emotionally bring the audience up to that climax. So you always want to one-up yourself. Yeah. So the good things that are happening should get better, and the bad things that are happening should get worse. Okay? Mm-hmm. This is how you make your audience go crazy. Okay?
Yeah, okay.
All right? Because that's what you're trying to do. Like the whole point of making film is to get an emotional response from your audience. And this is a really good way to do it. Okay, you send them on an emotional roller coaster. It's really good, bad, really, really good, really, really bad, really, really, really good, really, really, really bad. You know? In Neo's case, it gets so bad that it results in his death. You know, it gets really good, and then he actually has to die, and then it gets even better because the one person in the movie, I don't know if you guys have seen The Matrix or it's been 20 years, but when he finally dies, the one person in the movie that he needs to believe in him does. Finally, she believes in him, that he's the one, and he's able to come back from death and become the character that he needs to be to fulfill his arc. So it's a good example. If you watch that movie, like you can watch it scene by scene and see how things go. Okay, that's good. Oh, that's bad. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's bad. You know, you can really see it. It's very, very clear. So, you know, because of that could be as many as you need. You know, now, like I said, in the short film, the because of that, you know, if you guys are doing Green Ninja, there may not be a lot of because of that. There could be a bunch. You know, it could be a series of quick gags. You know, elements that happen to the character. Or it could be one. It could be one event. It's kind of as many as you need. Until finally, The quest is completed, the hero finds a solution to the problem. This is the climax of the film. It should be the emotional peak of your story. It often involves the hero sacrificing himself or being sacrificed for. There's almost always risk at this point. The greater the risk, the stronger the emotion. It is important to understand that a character is defined by the decisions he/she makes under pressure. This is true throughout the story, but never so much as at this point. Casablanca. Great ending. I'm going to give it away if you haven't seen it. I'm sorry, but I got to talk about it because it's awesome. It's your own fault if you haven't seen Casablanca. That's not on me. For God's sakes. It's a classic. It was out before I was born, so you can't blame me. Great turn of events, the unexpected ending. Rick has everything he wants. He's got the girl, he's got the money, he's got the passports, he's ready to get on a plane and leaves. And what does he do? He sends her off with her husband because he knows it's the right thing to do. He makes the right decision for everybody. Maybe not the right decision for him, it sucks for him, broken heart, all that. But super emotional, super awesome, and makes him still one of the greatest characters ever written into film. And ever since that day, so that's the last one. Ever since then, the audience learns how things have changed. In traditional storytelling, things are for the better. Our hero has changed and grown into a better person, or has affected those around him in a positive way, or both. All the stories I've just been talking about, you can see that. In Freebirds, Reggie's a better person. He mans up, he goes back, he saves his friends, and because of him, these turkeys don't get killed anymore. All his friends are going to be okay. I'm sure you figured that would happen anyway. We're not going to slaughter turkeys in front of kids, folks. Just a couple. Casablanca, right? Not only has Rick really become a better person who's not just thinking about himself, but he's also helping the entire world. Kill the Nazis. Get rid of them. You guys probably won't see Freebirds, so I'm going to go ahead and throw that out there too, because it is very different. Reggie, our main character, actually bails on his friends at the end of the movie. And he does this because he feels like he's done more harm than good. And he feels like, I've totally screwed over my friends, and wherever I go is a path of destruction, and I need to get out of here before I mess things up anymore. And he has to leave in order to realize that he can't do that. He has to leave, he has to walk away to realize that he actually is responsible. That he does have to, he can't just bow out because it's the easy way to go. And then he does come back and save his friends. It's his friends that are at risk, so it's an opposite. He puts his friends at risk by stepping away. At the same time, he's risking everything he cares about. He leaves his friends behind, he leaves the woman he loves behind. He is at risk, but their lives are at risk. They're about to be killed and eaten by pilgrims. So, it's a little bit different. The life risk is always a good one. If you guys can get life risk into your stories, it's always good. So you want to end your story. You don't want to do like Lord of the Rings and have another 45 minutes of Bilbo gardening. But and I love those movies, don't get me wrong. I love them. But God, that ending went on forever and ever and ever.
I always had trouble figuring out where the climax ends, and is the resolution is when everything's kind of back to normal?
The climax is the actual event.
Okay.
So Neo dying, coming back to life, and defeating the enemy in the Matrix. That's the climax. Mm-hmm. Him in the phone booth at the end, basically calling the machines and saying it's on, bring it, we're going to go to war. That's basically, that's, and then, forever after.
And Rick walks off with the corrupt
the
guy.
The police
He's
guy.
a great relationship or whatever. Okay.
Because they have a bond that they both hate the Nazis.
Yeah.
They may have had their differences, but they respected each other, and they both hate the Nazis.
And they walk off into the sunset.
Mm-hmm.
Right, or whatever.
Into the fog.
And the resolution's really symbolic of everything that's going to happen from now on in.
Yes, basically, yeah.
So
It's a clear image of how the world or the character has changed. Okay? Yeah. When I watch Father and Daughter, my brain goes into a different mode. Mm-hmm. It's questioning things. It's asking questions like, what's going on? What is she feeling? What is she thinking? What is she doing?